And some of the world's most oppressive regimes may be blocked from receiving deadly weapons. There are reports the United States will change its policies around selling arms overseas, denying exports to nations with poor human rights records.
Children killed with weapons made in the West. More than 12,000 civilians are thought to have died in the 6-year war in Yemen. It's one of dozens of conflicts the United States arms industry indirectly supports. The US is far and away the biggest arms merchant. It sold more than $237 billion worth last year alone. A lot of that goes to brutal regimes. Saudi Arabia, ranked in Freedom House's top 10 worst nations for human rights, is the #1 buyer of American weapons. It bought an estimated $2.1 billion worth in 2020. An appalling rights record, its bombing of Yemen and its murder of a Washington Post journalist still did not dissuade then US President Trump from selling the Saudis American arms.
$3 billion, $533 million.
That may change. According to the news agency Reuters, the Biden administration is preparing an overhaul of US arms export policy. It will reportedly include an assessment of the potential buyer's human rights record.
It's, of course, always a little bizarre to talk about not selling deadly weapons to people who might abuse human rights with them, because I don't know how you use deadly weapons without abusing somebody's human rights. But to the extent that it limits U.S. weapons sales, I'm in favor of it.
Thousands of Americans work in the arms industry. There are concerns a shift in export policy could impact jobs and U.S. influence.
So there's an inherent subjectivity here, and that's where it gets into potentially undermining U.S. influence, because it's going to not be seen as an objective standard, but as Washington playing favorites or playing politics with one country versus another.
A draft conventional arms transfer proposal will reportedly be presented to several US lawmakers at the end of the week. It may be implemented as soon as September.
You know, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar in the U.S. Congress had a bill last session and has promised to reintroduce it this session, though I haven't seen it, called the Stop Arming Human Rights Abusers Act. And if the U.S. government wanted to stop arming human rights abusers, it would go ahead and make that law. Again, everybody it armed would continue to abuse human rights with the arms, but it would be a step in the right direction.
The United States is around a month away from officially concluding its longest war in Afghanistan. President Biden's promised to be out of Iraq by the end of the year. And now a reported dramatic arms sales overhaul. It is a year of historic change within the world's biggest military and military weapons maker. Brent O'Halloran, Sky News.